Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sharmit podcast. Today I'm thrilled to introduce a very special guest, Lucien Immink, who is joining us all the way from Netherlands. Lucien is one of the well-known Google developer expert and a seasoned developer with rich background that spans Java development and front-end web technologies. With years of experience in crafting elegant solutions for client, Lucian has become a respected voice in the tech community. So today in this episode, we will explore Lucian's journey, his philosophy on web development, and his thoughts on the evaluation of frameworks and core web technology. But before we dive in, I would like to thank Lucian for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. A little something about myself. Well, I think Amit already did a splendid job in telling who I am. So, yeah, my name is Lucien Immink. I'm from the Netherlands, living in Helmond. That's near to Eindhoven, which is most known in the world for absolutely nothing. But there's another small town next to Eindhoven, which has become quite famous. It's called Veldhoven, and it hosts one of the bigger tech companies in Europe, if maybe not the biggest. They make the machines that make chips,
Okay.
right? And that's where, the surroundings of where I'm living is mostly known for today. Um, I myself, like Amit said, I started out as a Java developer, and I switched to front end the second that I could, because I think it's very satisfactory to see what you're doing being translated into a UI almost instantaneously. And with Java development, well, I was working for a bank, so the most the highlight of my week was showing that somewhere in a database, some value became something else due to what I've done. And I'm more a visual kind of guy, so I wanted to see exactly what I was doing directly on the screen.
Okay.
That's me in a nutshell.
All right. So we just want to know more about your this transition where you moved from Java developer to a full-time front-end developer. So what sparked that kind of shift for you, like in detail, and how did your Java background influence your web technologies experience or approach?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a very good question. So yeah, what happened? When I started studying media technologies, that's
Mhm.
sort of like combining computer science with studio technology.
Okay.
So I ended up writing my uh, end thingy uh, for one of the Dutch broadcasting companies called the VPRO or the VPRO in English, where I built a system that could actually record radio live and broadcast it to computers. Well, we call it streaming media nowadays, but back when I was working on it, it was still in its infancy, and there were a lot of things that we needed to tackle, like how can we make sure that we use the bandwidth as most efficient as possible, because there are actually like two ways that you can connect to a stream. One is that you connect directly to the streamer. So if we have, let's say, 1,000 visitors at the same time, all 1,000 visitors want to request their own stream from the streamer. Oh,
Mhm.
you can imagine that that takes a lot of burden on the system of the streamer, and we had absolutely nothing in that time. And the other way around was that you broadcast it to a proxy server, and that the streamer, or well, the streamer streams to the proxy server, and the clients get their information from the proxy server. And we had those kinds of proxy servers with all major ISPs in the Netherlands back in the day, and it really helped out a lot. That's called multicasting, and that's something that's quite normal nowadays. But when I was working on it, and it was at the start of this century, there was absolutely nothing. So there was a lot of things to figure out, mostly into hardware and low level computing. And then I graduated. I needed a job, and the guys at the VPRO said, "Well, you've done an amazing job, so why don't you stay?" I said, "Oh,
Okay.
sure, sure. What kind of function do you have in mind?" Yeah, well, we have a Java based CMS that we built ourselves, and maybe you can help out with that. I said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I have some Java experience, so I can do that." And I started my life as a Java developer. Um, Also got my certificates for Java 1.4 and 1.5, I believe. So it was quite some years ago. But unfortunately, I had to switch jobs. And I moved, well, no, my work moved to another city, um, meaning that I spent more time in the train than actually, well, I had the feeling more time in the train than in the office, but of course it wasn't exactly that. Um, and I started doing different kinds of programming, more like, well, like I've said, I started to work for a bank, and that was completely different from that dynamic environment that I was in, with thinking about optimizing hardware streams to, well, like I've said, seeing things change in a database. But
Mhm.
at the same time, we saw more and more a shift of who was responsible for the UI. Because when I started, building the HTML and CSS from the design was either done by a designer,
Mhm.
so the one that created the Photoshop file also had to create the HTML and CSS from it, or it was a developer. But neither of them said, I really want to do this all day.
Okay.
Well, a few of us said, we do want to do this all day. And that's where front end development started. So when the company that I worked at the time said, well, maybe we have some more work related to translating design files to working websites, I
Mhm.
was bang on. I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's go for that instead of my Java based work. So that's where I made the switch. Um, Together with two other guys at the company, we switched full time from backend development to, well, the new department, front end development. And yes, we started out with slicing Photoshop files and creating assets, and then translating those assets into HTML and CSS. JavaScript was something that you didn't do because that was totally broken. A thing called Flash came up, and I had to re-educate myself into Flash because that was the new thing.
Okay.
Second part is, how did my Java based backend influence my web development?
Right.
I think it influenced me a lot because
Mhm.
I learned the object oriented approach from my
Yes.
Java days. And I still implement those also in my front end days.
Mhm.
If you come from a design background, you don't have that same philosophy in your head. You have to translate, or you have to, yeah, really think about how your models will look like or what they need to represent. While if you are already doing that full time for the last 3 4 years, it's more of a second nature. Of course,
Mhm.
this was also way before you saw the object oriented to functional programming shift that we've had in front end land. um, but yeah, also thinking about APIs, understanding what a backend developer struggles with when you hand them over your HTML version of the website without any backend. Uh, yeah, I've seen both sides, so you could say that I'm a full stack developer, although I strongly think I'm not a full stack developer anymore.
Mhm.
Um, but I know the struggles from both ends.
Okay. Fine. So your journey sounds really very interesting because how you witnessed the changes in the web development, and because you have worked with different technologies like Java and web technologies, right? So as an expert, there is one question for you. Like, we all know that currently things are getting changed rapidly. Everything is evolved in the tech landscape. In this kind of situation, developer often reinvent the wheel to accommodate the new and shiny frameworks. So here, as an expert, why do you think like this happens, and how we can avoid such kind of scenarios?
Yeah, good question. Well, why does it happen? The new Shiny framework has a specific domain language,
Mm-hmm.
and you want your component to adhere to that domain language. Can we avoid it? Well, more and more, I think the answer must be yes, because
Okay.
more and more of the things that why all those frameworks were created,
Mm-hmm.
jQuery back in the days, Angular, Vue, React nowadays, they were all created because we wanted to do something as a
Mm-hmm.
developer that the platform didn't allow or didn't
Okay.
accommodate. Silly thing. A few years ago, if I needed a date picker, I knew I need to write a date picker. Well, a date picker is a component that I don't want to write ever.
Right.
But it's a complex component if you think
Yes.
about it, and especially if you want to have a generic date picker that accommodates all the different scenarios that a date picker can have. Like,
Mm-hmm.
am I planning my next holiday with a start date and an end date, possibly spanning multiple months, or do I need to pick my birth date?
Yeah.
And if it's my birthday, then I need a completely different UI and a completely different UX with that same date picker. But we have seen beautiful, positively amazing working date pickers built in jQuery, and they needed to be rebuilt almost from the bottom up again when jQuery left the building and Angular entered the building.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then said developer who made that date picker switched jobs. And then he had to learn React, for example. He needed a new date picker. He saw the environment. He looked around. He checked NPM. And the only date picker that totally did everything that he wanted to do was his own. So there was only one thing he could do: rewrite the damn date picker again.
Okay.
And that's silly. But we needed it because there was no date picker in the platform. There was an input type text where you had to put in your date, and then you had to make your own set of rules on validation, for example. But things have changed. And what browser vendors do is what every smart company does is it sees that there's a specific set of things that needed that people want, and they start to think about it. But the
Mm-hmm.
way those are implemented in such a way that they will work today, tomorrow, and in 30 years' time.
Okay.
There are only a few things that have been removed from the web platform in the last 30 years, for example. Yes, marquee has been removed, that it doesn't work anymore as a marquee, but it wasn't something that should be in the platform regarding accessibility and UI and UX. But it was. So they removed it. But that's only one of the few examples. With the addition of web components, for example, that have been added to the web platform where you can build your own standalone component that
Mm-hmm.
works with all the different frameworks, means that if you want to build your own date picker, why? But if you want it and you're going to do it, you can do it in a way that you can provide a date picker that works not only for you today, tomorrow, and in 30 years' time, but also for everyone.
Okay.
And of course, a new framework will emerge, right? Things that React and Angular are doing are things that are, well, I think at the time, I think 70-80% of the things that they do are already a part of the platform. So the using those kind of frameworks will, well, if we educate enough developers enough, I think that those kind of frameworks will be used less in, let's say, 5 years time. But I can't predict the future, but that's my feeling at the moment. But the components that they've built, that developers have built during the time that they worked in Angular or React, are still valid and good components that we want to reuse
Mm-hmm.
as much as possible. And I think uh, how we can avoid it is by looking at what the platform, so the web platform in this case, has to offer. And that's quite a lot.
Okay. And Listen, like we noticed that at some point of your career, you often not only at that moment, but maybe currently also, you often embrace the power of web platform basics like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, rather than betting it. So what was that turning point that made you to adopt this kind of philosophy that yes, we should embrace the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript?
I think that is when I um funny story. It's a story.
Okay.
Most stories are funny. Um, I bought a NAS, a network attached storage, about 10 years ago. And when I bought it mostly to store my music files, to listen to my music while I was working or when I was doing something else.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the time before Spotify and all the other streaming services for music. But I had my NAS and I opened up the firewall at home to make sure that I could get to those music files wherever I was.
Okay.
Um, that NAS came with a music player, but it was terrible. And I thought, well, that's unfortunate. Sorry, but I'm a developer, so I can build my own music player.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to do that. I also started to do that because I needed some sort of a playground where I could learn all those new frameworks and new libraries that came out. There was a thing called Knockout.js, and I had no idea what it was. People were talking about it, and I was like, I need something to build. So I started building the music player with Knockout.js,
Okay.
and I rebuilt it using AngularJS, just Angular 2.0, then 3, migrated to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, switched to React, checked Svelte, switched to web components. So I used that the development of that music player also to learn a lot about also what the web platform is capable of. And during that time, I was also introduced in the wondrous world of accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to have an accessible website, especially when you're doing it professional. I think it should be a must. It's
Right.
not an optional thing. It's
Correct.
something that needs to be part of your work. And that's also where the web platform and the web platform technologies help you out a lot, right? So, yes, you can use JavaScript to have interactivity with let's say, a button. I click on a
Mm-hmm.
button and it opens a modal window. I can do that with JavaScript, but that means that if I want to do it correctly, I need to think of a lot of additional small things that I'll probably forget that are
Okay.
built into the web platform for free. Well, not for free, but free for us to use.
Yes.
Um, Stuff like um, you can not only click on the button, but you can also use your keyboard.
Mhm.
And if you have a on-click event listener on a button, and it's actually not a button, it's a div, you lose that ability. And if you want to reintroduce that, you have to build it yourself. Showing that modal, you can do that using JavaScript. You can build a div that is behaving like a modal. But it also means that you have to think about a lot of things yourself, like, do I have a tap trap so that if I tap while the modal is active, that I only tap through the visible elements within the modal and
Mm-hmm.
not the elements on the website that's behind the modal, because that's not in focus. You shouldn't be able to do that. If I scroll my mouse wheel, do I scroll the rest of the page or is it fixed? Well,
Yes.
probably you want it fixed. All kinds of small things that you need to think of yourself, while other people have already thought of that for you. Build components for you to use that are accessible, that provide a good UX, that are running anywhere, so mobile, tablet, desktop grade device, without issues. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all part of the platform. So yes, you can build it yourself, or you can download a library of a few kilobytes up to a few megabytes sometimes, that have done all this hard work for you. But then again, you have already downloaded the browser that has that capability, so why not use it?
Okay. All right. So let's take the discussion to your another core expertise, that is your work as a principal consultant, because we all know that your mission is to discover the elegant solution for your clients. So what does this term elegant mean to you in the terms of web development, and how do you achieve it for your clients?
Yeah. So I'm, like you said, I'm a principal consultant at Team Rockstars IT in the Netherlands. What I try to do there is, well, we have a lot of bigger clients that are, well, I wouldn't say struggling with, but they have questions.
Okay.
They have questions regarding what do I need to do to be future proof?
Mm-hmm.
Or we have a web application that is not performing up to speed. What can I do to improve the responsiveness, or what can I do to lower the maintenance costs of my cloud tenant, for example? Those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
questions. That those are the kinds of questions that we get, and the kind of questions that I try to answer for them. So I'm using my 20 plus years of experience
Okay.
to find and to help to find the solutions for my clients that they can't find themselves. Yes, because otherwise they don't have to call me if they can find it themselves.
Yeah.
And and by using the expertise and the experience that I have the feeling that I can help them quite good, because I you need to see the patterns, right? So most of the
Like,
times, if it's a performance issue, for example, you don't always get to see the cause of the issue, but you get to see what the outcome is. Yes, my application is slow. That is something that we need to fix, but that's not the cause of the slowness itself. That might be something completely different, like uh, we forgot to implement the CDN, and we're downloading all our files from Australia while our clients live in Norway, for
mm-hmm.
example. That you can optimize there, but there can be a lot of things that can happen, of course, or a lot of things that can go wrong, and it is my it's my duty to find the best solution, and I tend to say the most elegant solution, because we want to provide our clients with something that, well, is understandable for them, and is also proven to be a correct solution for now and the future.
Okay. So, Lucian, like we all can see that apart from your professional work that you are doing and providing the elegant solution to your client, you have been also rewarded with one of the prestigious title, Google Developer Expert, that we can also see in the back of your wall. So, could you please tell us like how, like what does this recognition mean to you, and how has it has impacted your work or your influence in the community?
Yeah. Um, uh, what does it mean to me? Well, when I started out on that journey, I was
Mm-hmm.
working at a company where was made responsible for knowledge sharing events. And well, it was my own idea. I said, I think we need more knowledge sharing events.
Mm-hmm.
With this, also the things that I've said regarding that we rebuild our components because we have a new framework, is also because a lot of people have learned a specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
kept that in their minds, and transferred that exact same knowledge to their new environments. But it
Okay.
could have been something happening in the meantime. But without you knowing that it happened, yeah, how do you know what to use? So I think that for senior developers and other more experienced developers, it's very important to share your own knowledge with
Yes.
your coworkers, but also with other people that are interested in that topic.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing that knowledge is a way of getting other people to understand that there are other solutions for the issues that they have.
Okay.
If I didn't attend any conference or any meetup or didn't read any blogs, I would probably try to still make my day picker in the technology stack that I was familiar with 20 years ago. But luckily, I did attend conferences and read some blogs regarding what's happening with the browsers, regarding for example, what we now have the baseline report, where the browser vendors are cooperating in working on the same features. So we know that in this year, everyone can use these sets of features.
Okay.
But you need to know about it. So, and I was really for that company, I was the one that initiated the knowledge sharing events that we had. And one of the things that you have to do if you want to become a Google developer expert is to show that you do stuff for the community, for the developer community.
Okay.
So organizing those events, but also I thought at a certain time I was looking at I was at a conference looking at a talk, and I was like, I will probably be never as good as this person, but I do want to try it.
Okay.
So I started thinking about a topic, started thinking about writing an excerpt, to send a call for papers, to be rejected a gazillion times, to be on stage a few times. And that's also one of the things that you, don't have to do, but what you can do in order to show that you're giving back to the community if you want to become a GDE. And the cool thing is, when you are a GDE, Google also sometimes allows you to be their guinea pig, so to say. So there might be a few things coming up, and I can't say too much about it because NDAs. But I have seen them already before they hit the main audience.
Okay.
Right. So you can also imagine, and they're doing a great job at it, that they have a program called Train the Trainer.
Okay.
So the people that are going on stage or going to a company explaining about, for example, now 2025, something that everyone talks about, AI.
Yes.
But how do you implement it? What's the best approach? We know about all the different models, but can they cooperate? Are they the same? Are they what's different? If you're a developer, do you need the same model as if you're a business kind of person? Well, trust me, those big tech companies, they are already spending a lot of money in AI and also making sure that the people that are going to share that knowledge know about it. And that's all about that I can say about that part. So Google is giving me something back. So more inside information. They're giving me the opportunity to be part of the dev fests. So there are around the globe, there are a lot of Google developer groups that are organizing a dev fest. That's a meetup, so to say. And depending on where it is in the world and depending on how many times I've already traveled, if my company isn't going to pay the expenses to go there because I'm asked, Google is backing up and paying those expenses. So that's awesome. But the most important thing, I think, is you meet a lot of interesting people.
Correct.
Right. So we have the developer summit every year where, I've visited one, but where most of the European or even the global GDEs come together and share their knowledge about everything that they do. And there's so many amazing people in that program, and wow, really looking forward to the next one.
All right. Okay, so Lucian, like although we have many things that we can discuss here in this podcast, but we have limited time and 1 or 2 minutes
Yes.
are there. So I just want to ask one last question regarding the key person in your life, because like throughout your career, who were the key people who guided, inspired, and motivated or supported you throughout your journey?
Yeah, good question. Well, of course, my family
Yes.
can't go without saying that I really have a very supportive family. Um, I thank God for my mother and my brothers.
Okay.
Also, my partner, who never stood in the way. Yes, she doesn't like that I travel a lot in the summer to be anywhere except for with her, but we make that up during the other times. Professionally, I learned a lot from two of my old colleagues,
Mm-hmm.
Koen Peters and Friso Geerlings.
Okay.
Those are two people that really meant a lot for me, also giving me the opportunity to to take the time to set up that knowledge sessions that I've talked about, to take the time to really transition my personal field of work from development to architecture to uh, uh, sorry to also developer advocacy work,
Mm-hmm.
and I really can't thank them enough for that. And nowadays, I think that well, when he's watching this, then it's hopefully he'll remember that for my end of year meeting. Marco Kuipers, my current supervisor, who is really pushing me also to explore other things, right? Because I know that I have a lot of experience in the front end field,
Mm-hmm.
but there are because you have been well because I have been working for 20 plus years now, um, always in teams, always in a team, always part of something bigger. Um, you see a lot of things repeating over and over again when you well in the same company, but also in when you switch companies or as a consultant uh, being asked at a company to help them out with their issues and their struggles. There's so much more, right? So
Right.
great software isn't only about software, but it's also about the environment and about
Correct.
the people that are working there. And there we can help out a lot as well. And that's something that I really learned from Marco. So thank you for that.
All right. So thank you so much, Lucian, for joining us in this
Thank
podcast
you.
and for sharing so much information regarding the web technologies and your expertise. So thank you once again for being a part of the show.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.